Hi Year 3. So you'll be glad to know we're on the next chapter of Fantastic Mr. Fox, and Mr. Fox now has a plan. So before we read the text, I would like you to start thinking about what his plan could be. Think about what you know already, about what's happened in the story, and then we will get started and see what happens. Don't forget you can pause the video clip at any time and go back and reread it if you want to, and I will post the Vipers questions before the clip and after the clip so you can have a look, and then we'll share our answers. So now we're on chapter 9 of Fantastic Mr. Fox, and as you can see from the title, Mr. Fox has a plan. And our first Vipers question is a prediction question, and it says at the beginning of chapter 9, predict Mr. Fox's plan. So before I read any of the chapter, I want you to have a think about what you know already about Mr. Fox and write down how you think he's going to get out of this predicament. How is he going to protect his family and keep them alive? For 3 days and 3 nights this waiting game went on. How long can a fox go without food or water? Boggis asked on the 3rd day. Not much longer now, Bean told him. He'll have to make a run for it soon, he'll have to. Bean was right. Down in the tunnel, the foxes were slowly but surely starving to death. If only we could have had just a tiny sip of water, said one of the small foxes. Oh, Dad, can't you do something? Couldn't we make a dash for it, Dad? We'd have a little bit of a chance, wouldn't we? No chance at all, snapped Mrs. Fox. I refuse to let you go up there and face those guns. I'd rather you stay down here and die in peace. So that means they're starting to get desperate now. They're really thirsty and they're really hungry and they need to know what to do. Mr. Fox had not spoken for a long time. He had been sitting quite still, his eyes closed, not even hearing what the others were saying. Mrs. Fox knew that he was trying desperately to think of a way out. And now, as she looked at him, she saw him stir himself and get slowly to his feet. He looked back at his wife. There was a little spark of excitement dancing in his eyes. Oh, so we're going to stop there because our next Vipers question is an inference question. And it says, what does this phrase tell us? There was a little spark of excitement in his eyes. So have a think about what we've just read and see if you can write down your answer. What is it, darling? Said Mrs. Fox quickly. I've just had a bit of an idea, Mr. Fox said carefully. What? They cried. Oh, Dad, what is it? Come on, said Mrs. Fox. Tell us quickly. Well, said Mr. Fox. Then he stopped and he sighed and he sadly shook his head. He sat down again. It's no good, he said. It won't work after all. Why not, Dad? Because it means more digging. And we aren't, oh, what's that say? Because it means more digging. And we aren't, any of us, strong enough for that after 3 days and nights without food. Yes, we are, Dad, cried the little foxes, jumping up and down and running to their father. We can do it. You can see if we can't. So can you. So I'm just going to pause there because our next question is a retrieval question. And it says, why did Mr. Fox think his plan would not work? Okay, so you can write down your answer from what we've read. Our final question is an explain question, and it asks you to explain how the fox cubs encouraged Mr. Fox. So that part that we've just read might help you with that question as well. Mr. Fox looked at the 4 small foxes and he smiled. What fine children I have, he thought. They are starving to death. They haven't had a drink for 3 days, but they are still undefeated. I must not let them down. I suppose we could give it a try, he said. Let's go, Dad. Tell us what you want us to do. Slowly, Mrs. Fox got to her feet. She was suffering more than any of them from the lack of food and water, and she was very weak. I'm so sorry, she said, but I don't think I'm going to be able to help much. You stay right where you are, my darling, said Mr. Fox. We can handle this by ourselves. Okay, so write down your answer, and then we'll compare them with mine. If you want to go and look back over the Vipers questions, I will post them again after the video clip. Okay, so now we need to look at the answers to the Vipers question for Chapter 9 of Fantastic Mr. Fox. So the first question was a prediction question. So at the beginning of Chapter 9, you needed to predict what Mr. Fox's plan might be. So this comes from your own knowledge of the book and the knowledge of the text. So as long as it's a sensible answer, then it could be from your own imagination. So let's have a look at mine. Mine says Mr. Fox's plan will be to make the farmers fall asleep and then he can escape. So that's what I think he might do. So have a look at yours and decide what you think he might do in your prediction. Okay, the second question was an inference question, and it says, what does the phrase tell us? There was a little spark of excitement in his eyes. So think about how Mr. Fox might look and why he might look like that. Now my answer says, Mr. Fox had an idea that he was excited about. That's why he had excitement in his eyes. The next question was a retrieval question. Why did Mr. Fox think his plan would not work? So in the text we heard him getting excited and then getting less excited as he thought about it. I wonder why that was. Let's have a look at my answer. Because they were too weak due to having no food. So he realised that his plan needed a lot of energetic digging and he was worried they might not have enough energy to do it. Okay, and the last question was an explain question. Explain how the fox cubs encouraged Mr. Fox. Okay, so have a think about their reaction and what they did in the response to Mr. Fox starting to get a bit hesitant about his plan. Let's have a look at the answer. They reassured him by showing him that they had lots of energy. So they reassured him and made him rethink because they were jumping around and they were excited and they were showing him that they had lots of energy left and they might be able to complete his plan. So those are the answers to the Vipers question. Remember, some of the answers might be from your opinion and that's fine. The next chapter, chapter 10, is going to be quite a long one. And we're going to find out if the plan works. Hopefully. We're all rooting for Mr. Fox, so hopefully it does work. Okay, bye.